Chapter 1708. The live stream was flooded with comments. So handsome. Rao Rong was in a daze for a few seconds. Bragging was considered handsome. Zhao Sanpang was definitely the most handsome. Because he often bragged. Little Spade is narcissistic. Rao Rong asked Qin Mo. Qin Mo replied as he started to move the mouse. Her. She often praises herself for being handsome without batting an eyelid. No wonder. Rao Rong touched his chin. She is indeed studious. Qin Mo laughed softly. He seemed to have thought of something. Anyway, his expression was slightly different. Rao Rong ate a mouthful of dog food silently. He saw that Qin Mo was already hiding in the bushes in the wilderness. Rao Rong wanted to say that this was really scheming, too scheming. No wonder Zhao Sanpang called him Scheming Qin. He already knew what the opponent was going to do, which was why he was hiding in the bushes. It was obvious that the actor arranged here wasn't a high-level actor. He only wanted to send himself over. He didn't even know what his own assassin was doing. Up until now, Spade T and Flawless Luoluo had used this method to gain many points. After all, they were both professional players. It wasn't a problem for them to play such a low-end game. They arranged for one of them to be an actor on the other side because they wanted to play more elegantly. One had to know that people liked them now because they were handsome. They couldn't lose this charm. Now, let's return a blue buff to the opponent, Spade T said as she attacked. Flawless Luoluo was smiling too. It seemed like this game was extremely easy for them. But they hadn't expected something. A human figure would suddenly emerge from the bushes. A direct punishment. The blue buff they had used for so long was wasted. Spade T was about to explode. F***CK. That's F***King scheming. That's right, it's too scheming. A bunch of comments echoed. But there were also gamers who felt that it was normal. Wasn't it normal for the blue buff to be missed? Why did this person explode? She even cursed. Why did she feel? She couldn't feel it clearly. Everyone watching the live stream froze. That was because the figure in the bushes didn't retreat after taking back the blue buff. A backhand hit Spade T's body. Spade T seemed to be infuriated as she brought the sorcerer to retaliate. However, for some unknown reason, after the move was sent out, it actually missed. And where was he? Where is he? Unlike the audience, Spade T didn't have a full view. As a result, they couldn't see how that person had dodged two of their skills. With a flick of his spear, he jumped into an excellent position. Spade T asked, "Where is he?" He was lifted into the air by the silver-white spear. When the silver sparks fell, Spade T was stunned. Most importantly, Flawless Luoluo used her skill. However, it did not freeze the figure at all. That person seemed to know how she was going to fight. He was always one step ahead to avoid their skills. On the screen, the figure pulled back and forth at an extremely fast speed. It was so dazzling that Spade T didn't even have a chance to react. Even the people watching the live broadcast were shocked by that kind of positioning and hand speed. No bullet screen popped up for a long time. It would only take 3 to 5 seconds. Chapter 1709. First Blood. First Kill. The first drop of blood. Silver sparks fell. The shadow of the long spear was imprinted on the ground. The entire live stream was silent. Did the T die? She died in less than 2 minutes after the start of the game. Spade T's hand paused for a moment. In the next second, she started speaking. Luoluo, what's wrong with you? Shouldn't you have frozen him just now? This person usually called Flawless Luoluo but always called her Luoluo. Flawless Luo was also stunned. She didn't expect the tea to die. When she regained her senses, she stuck out her tongue and said, "Sorry, I used the wrong skill just now. I was just being naughty." This kind of explanation could be considered passable. The bullet screen kept saying, "Next time, you can't be naughty, Almighty T is dead," etc. But there were only a few such bullet screen comments. Then, another sound effect was heard. Double kill. Double kill. They must have heard wrongly. Double kill. It was actually a double kill. Everyone's eyes started to shake. But the figure on the screen seemed to naturally sweep past the bushes at the side. As he flipped over the wall, he had already defeated a wild monster in the river. And his HP, which was almost gone just now, actually rose back up. The people who originally came to watch the battle were here to see Spade T. When they saw this scene, they couldn't help but click on the person's corner of their vision. This meant that wherever he went, they would see it. Spade T and Flawless Luoluo's mentality was a little broken. Flawless Luoluo never thought that she would die as well. Spade T immediately said, "Luoluo, are you stuck there again?" Yes, I'm stuck again." After Flawless Luoluo said this sentence, Spade T said, "I think so too. But you can't say you're stuck after being killed once." When it was the second time, people watched the game from the other party's perspective. Once again, Spade T and Flawless Luoluo were killed by the silver-white figure. The live stream room was silent. What's the situation? Why did T die again? It doesn't look like a card. I don't think it looks like a card either. It's because he's too fast. Did anyone see how he came out? I've been watching for a long time, but I still don't know where he came from. Look at the assassin he's playing. He can teleport 3 times and go through walls. It's normal for him to suddenly appear. At this moment, Spade T's expression had changed. He was really flustered and exasperated. At this time, it was impossible to talk about teamwork. After all, this was a low-end game. If one did not have the ability to carry 4 people at once, they would have to think of a way to deal with such a person. He must be using a smurf account. But even if he's a smurf, his tank shouldn't be so bad. Smurf. Those who are here purely to see the game's skills need to explain why they are still using alternate accounts. Isn't this a high-end game? T doesn't like high-end games. It's already tough enough to train. Now, we're just playing low-end games. As soon as these words were spoken, another sound effect appeared on the screen. 3 times. He had already been double-killed 3 times. How could Spade T bear it? She sent a signal to gather. He didn't even bother with the tower anymore. Instead, he led the other 4 players behind him and dashed towards the figure in the jungle. This time, the other party was definitely going to die. This was the thought that everyone had at this moment. 1 against 5, and his teammates had no intention of coming to support him. Chapter 17:10. At this point in the live stream, someone started saying, "What's going on with the top lane over there? Why isn't he helping? Is it an illusion? I feel like he's an actor. Didn't someone say that this is a low-end game? There are actors in a low-end game." As people became more and more confused. In the game, there was a round of encirclement. Just when everyone thought that the figure was going to die, he seemed to have predicted the opponent's position. He raised his long spear and didn't escape. Instead, he held the long spear and jumped to the back of those people. The silver-white long spear landed on the ground. His long sleeves fluttered. The dragon sword came out and lifted 2 people at the back. The ADC and support couldn't react at all. Spade T, who was charging at the front, didn't expect him to fight like this. She turned around to fight again. The ADC was already killed by the figure. Everyone could see that the silhouette on the screen was like moving clouds and flowing water, a critical hit, and an instant kill. He took 1 out of the 5 people. After killing that person, he could quickly flee, and then turn around to counterattack. The long spear was sharp and caught him off guard. Even if he didn't go on stage. The people watching the live stream could understand what it felt like. Once he entered the scene, his head was taken. Moreover, there were 5 of them at the beginning. 5 of them couldn't stop him. Not only that, people could clearly see. 1 kill. Double kill. 3 kills. Just like that, in a situation that no one expected. That figure was like the wind that no one could stop. Prediction, positioning, and the awareness of a king. It wasn't that he hadn't been hit before. But every time he was hit, he could kill 1 person. Flawless Luo was among them. It was too fast. So fast that when Spade T saw that the figure had less than a third of his HP left, she thought that her chance had come. First, she let the tank rush over and give him a critical hit. The reason why he raised his spear again was because he wanted to kill this person once and teach him a lesson. It didn't make sense. They used the same hero. The opponent was so much stronger than her. Even if he had good skills. Now he was almost at critical HP. As long as she caught up, she could take his head. Spade T's eyes were bloodshot. He didn't care that the defense towers on this side were almost destroyed. Especially since the bottom lane had been pushed to the high ground. The only thing left in his eyes was to kill someone to avenge his humiliation. The people watching the live stream also understood what T was trying to do. For some reason, they were watching this game. He actually hoped that the silver-white figure would not be caught. But no one expected it. He knew that the other party was chasing after him. That person was still wielding his spear and casting a red buff. Hurry up and go. Killing 3 people is enough. That state just now, a 1v5, and he even killed 3 of them. That's really cool. But in the next second, everyone finally understood why he was using the red buff. He didn't do it for the redhead. It was for the sake of sucking blood. At this moment, Spade T flipped up. He entered the red buff area. Originally, he wanted to attack that person. However, the figure only moved his body sideways, and with that subtle movement, he was able to move his body. Spade T's big move didn't hit him at all. Instead, it hit the red buff. This was not the end. He thought that the person was going to leave. Who knew that he would take advantage of this moment to use a jungler's skill and take the red buff directly in his hands? Chapter 17:11. F***CK. Is he asking Spade T to help him with the red buff? Asking the opponent to help him with the red buff, that's a trick. Have you guys seen his results? He hasn't played many rounds. I have. He hasn't played many rounds and he's always the MVP with 0 deaths. I'm so envious. But he has always been a team control player. Why is he playing as an assassin this time? As a team control player, I feel that my previous team control games were all for nothing. Stop talking, look. Look at what? This question only lasted for a moment. On the screen, the silver light fell. After the figure took the red buff, he drew close with his long spear and lifted the opponent into the air. Like a silver-white dragon, it turned around and struck back. It was obvious that Spade T was in a daze, even her expression was blank. She didn't seem to expect herself to be killed. Because she wasn't convinced, Spade T threatened, "You cheater, I'm going to complain about you." How is that possible? He only has so little HP and I haven't killed him for so long, how is that possible? Just as Spade T was shouting, another sound effect played in his ears. Pentakill. Pentakill. He actually got a pentakill. Even the tank was killed by him. The anger in Spade T's mouth seemed to freeze in an instant. The bottom lane had already reached the center of the city. The silver figure with the long spear didn't move at this moment. He just stood there, his wide sleeves fluttering. A line of words appeared on the screen. How did you guys become professional players? This sentence was thousands of times more lethal than saying that their names were the same. The people watching the live stream came to a realization. Before this, they didn't think much of it. But this time, Spade T was stunned by her opponent's performance. They liked this person because he gave them a handsome feeling. Now that they looked at him, the glow seemed to have faded. Some people felt that he looked like Z was gone and a new one appeared. Just enough for them to continue chasing. Now, they didn't know why. They didn't like him anymore. They didn't like him anymore. Think about it carefully. Back when Spade Z was playing, she could always enter the wilderness alone, clear the red and blue beasts before returning. Regardless of the situation, she could always go against the wind. When he was tired, he would rebuke others, and there were even times when he would speak ruthlessly. His eyes were filled with ambition. But she has never said bad words. But this T, what they saw was this T. All of them were taken. There were also some who came to see his face. However, he admired this character of his. What right do you have to question our god T's ability as a professional player? But none of that was important. More importantly, those who actually played and watched the competition knew that noobs were noobs. Did they need noobs to raise pigs in esports? After the match, Chin Mo removed his black headphones. Spade T wanted to throw the blame at Spade Z's fans. At this moment, Sister Turtle came out. Chapter 17:12. In an instant. Those IDs that had been abandoned filled the entire screen. I'm in Jiang City, waiting for you to come back. I'm in An City, waiting for you to come back. I'm in Border City, waiting for you to come back. I'm in, it was just a short minute. Thousands of replies, one after another, increasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Some people said that this was a true Spade fan. Those who were active, looking for the same image. They just liked Z's outer shell and handsomeness. Hence, just because there was a slight resemblance, they felt that the other party was the person in their heart. This was understandable, after all, making oneself happy was the most important, regardless of who the other party liked. But true Spade fans would only appear at such times. Some of them were students, some were office workers, and some were newbies who had just entered society. They stopped abruptly. Some emotions that had never been numbed surged out from their eyes. That group of people had used one competition after another to tell everyone what it meant to survive in adversity, to be strong against the strong. When you grow up, you will understand that nothing in this world is easy. But you have to believe that we humans have always been fireflies on the ground, we can make a comeback and pluck the stars. If you are really tired, then ask. Can the dream in your heart be awakened again with this group of people? When the news came out, Spade T, who had just been slapped in the face, didn't believe it at all. But this didn't affect the continued popularity. Spade T's plan was to stick to the other party. But not everyone would be like those who like to be in a shell. Spade T still didn't understand. True Spade fans wouldn't care about her at all. Hence, this time, there wasn't any effect. Those people were only waiting for one thing. That was it true? That group of people was coming back. Was it true? At this moment, in the city center of Jiang City, in a tall building, one after another, figures strolled in. Swoosh! The door of the base opened. Light shone in. Rao Rong was still sitting in front of the computer, his black hair covered with headphones, his hand by the side. Qin Mo was wearing a black and red uniform, standing in the middle with his back facing the back. The two words, China, behind him, with flames, fluttering in the wind. It was as though one could hear the beating of the heart. After hearing the sound of the door, he turned his head. Wherever his gaze landed, Bo Jiu, Xiao Jing, Lin Feng, Yunhu, Luo Luo, Feng Shang, Coco, Lin Chintao, Yin Wuiao, Zhao Sanpang. These people were still the same as they were in his memory. They were youths in the prime of their youth. They were all wearing the same uniform. On the cuffs, there was a national emblem. They stood in a straight line in front of the door, their sleeves fluttering in the wind, a faint smile on their faces. They're all here. Qin Mo opened his mouth, his voice calm as though he was exchanging pleasantries with an old friend. Let's begin. It was just a short sentence, but it seemed to be able to shake something. The aura he exuded made the assistant standing behind him freeze on the spot. However, it was not that there was no reaction. After all, the higher-ups had asked him to take care of these esports players. But that scene was too cool. He was so handsome that the assistant couldn't help but raise his hand. With a click, the photo was formed. Qin Mo stood at the front. Everyone behind him had a gleam in their eyes. The photo was posted to the official account. There was only one sentence accompanying the picture. Chapter 17:13. In many people's hearts. They were really a group of gods. They gathered the best esports players in China and formed a Chinese team. Just looking at the photo and name list would make people want to know about the month before the start of the World League. How would they live? Everyone must be handsome. Zhao Sanpang did think he was handsome. But... Scheming Qin, are you serious? You want us to wake up at 8:30? Zhao Sanpang looked at the timetable in front of him, feeling as though he had entered a thief's nest. Qin Mo's voice was calm. For the sake of everyone's health, we will wake up at this time in the future. He, you must be joking. Zhao Sanpang turned towards the person beside him. Ask them, how many of them can wake up? Bo Jiu raised her hand lazily, smiling devilishly. I can't wake up. Zhao Sanpang shouted, look. Qin Mo glanced over. Bo Jiu had a serious expression. Think about it, if someone can guide me every day, I can still wake up. After all, it's never dreams that wake me up, it's beauty. Zhao Sanpang's mouth twitched. He shouldn't have relied on little Spade to rebel. How could she say something like that? Esports doesn't wake up early. Yin Wuiao indicated that this matter had to be discussed. Coco let out a yawn to express his thoughts. Qin Mo glanced up. At the latest 9 a.m., I want to see you in the living room. You have already washed up and are having breakfast. I've been on a diet recently and won't eat breakfast. I should be able to wake up later. Zhao Sanpang was trying his best to sleep a little longer. Qin Mo sat there, nonchalant. I heard you don't like bitter gourd, is that right, almighty fatty? No one likes bitter gourd, right? Zhao Sanpang blinked. Why? Scheming Qin, are you trying to change our meals? At this moment, Lin Feng and Yun, who were exceptionally quiet. They didn't speak. They quietly watched as the world's most handsome fatty jumped into the pit. Actually, Lin Feng had wanted to speak at the start. He wanted to talk about fitness. Was it true that he had to do 40 push-ups every night? Just as he was about to speak, Yunhu grabbed his wrist. Yunhu grabbed his wrist and arched a brow. He wanted him to observe first. Think about it before bringing up your ideas to the captain. Xiao Sanpang said fearlessly. He even admitted that he didn't like bitter gourds. Did Xiao Sanpang not know? Don't expose your weakness in front of the captain. Because he would definitely make good use of the captain, and then, before Lin Feng could even finish his thought, it's fine if you don't want to wake up early. From tomorrow onwards, I will get Bei to prepare 3 cups of bitter gourd juice for everyone. Those who haven't woken up by 9 a.m. can just drink it. 3 cups of bitter melon juice. Xiao Sanpang's expression changed. This must be a joke. 10 days of closed-door training, starting at 9:30 a.m., training at 12 o'clock p.m. During the afternoon break, it's fine if you don't want to run. You have to drink 3 glasses of bitter gourd juice and do push-ups at night. Qi Nemo glanced at the people opposite him. Since we are representing China, we have to look good, don't you think so? They said it was a den of thieves. Xiao Sanpang and Lin Feng looked at each other. Chapter 17:14. Qi Nemo sat there calmly. His noble aura didn't diminish in the slightest. It was as though he had seen through them. He said casually, I have already submitted your information to the committee. If you choose to leave now, you will be considered as betraying your country. Betraying your country. Xiao Sanpang glared at him. Scheming Qin, why didn't I know that you would use morals to pressure people? Qi Nemo was calm. Do you know now? Xiao Sanpang shook his head. Shameless, too shameless. Qi Nemo looked at him and suddenly smiled. It was a little warm. It seems like Almighty Fatty can't wait to taste the bitter melon juice. Xiao Sanpang's back stiffened. He didn't say another word. After a long time, a higher-up came to visit the members of the Chinese team and asked, You guys used to be the first and second in command of the team. What method did Qi Nemo use to allow you guys to get along peacefully? Xiao Sanpang only replied with one word. Shameless. They didn't even have a way to leave the team. Pirate ship, the biggest pirate ship. These sports players weren't used to waking up early. As for Xiao Sanpang, he had to use all his strength to get up. Bo Jiu was much smarter. She could catch up on her sleep by sitting in front of the computer. She sat there with her black headphones on, her uniform pulled to the top. Her entire face was covered, only revealing a pair of starry eyes. Her silver hair fell down. From afar, she looked very handsome. But when she got closer, she could see the youngster's head nodding. The side of the face was porcelain white, and it looked a little cool, like a cat, sleeping lightly. Qi Nemo walked over, emptied one hand, and tapped the man's forehead with his finger. Bo Jiu paused. She opened her eyes. There was still a hint of sleepiness in her eyes. It was obvious she wasn't fully awake. Subconsciously, she thought that she was still in a castle overseas. She reached out, wanting to hug his waist and carry out her daily morning teasing. Qi Nemo sensed her thoughts and a smile appeared on his lips. In order to prevent a certain someone from acting like a hooligan and forgetting where they were, Qi Nemo took a seat. He freed one hand and placed it on her side before lowering his body. Mrs. Qin, wake up. Look at where you are. Do you want to go outside and do frog jumps with Almighty Fatty, or do you want a glass of bitter melon juice? Frog jump, bitter melon juice. These 6 words seemed to have a magical nature. Bo Jiu had assumed that as someone who had graduated from high school, it would be impossible for her to come into contact with a sport like frog jumps. It was really too embarrassing to turn his hands behind his back and squat there and jump around like a frog. He didn't expect that a married person like her would have to experience this kind of life all over again. Most importantly, the frog was not jumping inside. Instead, it was to be at the plaza outside the building. It was a business district after all. A row of people were doing frog jumps, still wearing their uniforms. It was really eye-catching. In the beginning, even if it was embarrassing, it was only in front of passers-by. After that, some fans came to catch them. Every day, they would bet on who would wake up late to do frog jumps. Even people as thick-skinned as Xiao Sanpang and Bo Jiu wanted to maintain their image. The photo of Bo Jiu with a lollipop in her mouth and randomly posting frog jumps was still circulating on the internet. Chapter 17:15. However, it wasn't easy to beat a loafer. The next day, Bo Jiu was still in the group being punished. Other than her, there was Lin Feng and Xiao Sanpang. Frog jumps. What did Xiao Sanpang look like when he jumped? Besides, shameless Qin didn't allow them to wear masks. Xiao Sanpang couldn't catch his breath. He turned to Bo Jiu. "Little Spade, I'm not a troublemaker. You're scheming Qin's wife, but he's still punishing you. If I were you, I would divorce him." Bo Jiu bit the lollipop. She felt a little depressed. She placed her hands behind her head and jumped again and again. Her silver hair moved along with her. He was so handsome that the girls around him kept raising their phones. Their faces were still red, and their hearts couldn't take it anymore. Their big Spade was so handsome that they wanted to take him home and raise him. However, the person supervising the punishment was Almighty Qin. He held a cup of green liquid in his hand. It was said to be the bitter gourd juice that made all the members obey him the moment they heard his name. He was like a devil. It was too difficult to snatch someone from his hands. Bo Jiu was the first to complete the frog jumps. Xiao Sanpang watched from the back. "Little Spade, how are you so fast?" "I have experience." Bo Jiu reached out and wiped her sweat. She smiled devilishly. "I was often punished in high school. These 20 frog jumps are nothing. I can do one round around the entire field." Xiao Sanpang smirked. "Is that something to be proud of? Almighty fatty." After Bo Jiu was done with her punishment, she found a wooden stick. "I don't like it when anyone tries to sow discord between me and Brother Mo," Xiao Sanpang cursed. "How am I supposed to jump if you move the wooden stick away? This is a military marriage. If you continue to spoil it, I'll get someone to arrest you," Bo Jiu said nonchalantly. She didn't move the wooden stick in front of him. "Almighty fatty is so handsome. A wooden stick is nothing." Xiao Sanpang couldn't jump over. He couldn't help but shout, "Scheming Qin, come over and control your family." Qin Mo walked over, his gaze landing on her. Bo Jiu said, "He wants us to divorce." Qin Mo retracted his gaze, his voice calm. "Continue." Xiao Sanpang was speechless. It was one thing to do frog jumps, but he had to do it like this. In the past, Bo Jiu had a habit of showing off her love. Otherwise, as a smart car, Blackie wouldn't be unable to tolerate its master. Xiao Sanpang really didn't understand her in this aspect. Everyone saw that handsome young man with a black headband on his silver hair, his fair forehead glistening with beads of sweat. He held a wooden stick and blocked Fat God again and again. He didn't forget to say, "Every time he punishes me, he will give me a reward, such as candy or a kiss. I think it's good to do a few frog jumps, but the bitter gourd tastes terrible. But if you can't finish, I can prepare a few more cups for you later." Xiao Sanpang was speechless. Although he had never been in a relationship before, he had seen others who would deliberately make a mistake just for a kiss from their boyfriend and get punished. He shouldn't have said that just now. Little Spade looked very obedient in front of Chin Mo, but in fact, she was full of evil. Bojo didn't care about his thoughts. She threw the wooden stick down and went to her man to receive her reward. Chapter 17-16. Chin Mo watched a certain someone who was smiling. After entering the base, he found a corner and pressed her against the wall, kissing her again and again. Bojo wrapped her arms around his waist as her breaths rose and fell. The taste was slightly sweet when it entered the tongue. It was weird. It wasn't the first time they kissed. However, that kind of numbness never weakened. Bojo smiled. She liked the look in his eyes when his breathing was unstable. That was something that could only be felt for her. It was a pity that the medicine she got from the Black Brothers didn't work on him at all. Otherwise, she would have been able to appreciate more beauty. Bojo moved closer as she thought about it. It was this action that made Chin Mo's kiss deepen. It was as though he could take away all his thoughts and make his mind go blank. Only when she lost all her energy and could only rest on his body to recover did he release her. He pressed against her and said something softly in the corner. After tidying her uniform, he said, "I admire Mrs. Chin's attitude in protecting our marriage. Keep it up." Bojo's lips were still numb. She didn't pay attention to what Chin Mo said. This was the problem of kissing for too long. Every touch brought with it a numbness. The two of them wouldn't be intimate in public. But there would be occasional kisses. This didn't affect their performance. On the contrary, everyone in the team used the limited time to improve themselves. Whether it was their physique, ability to withstand pressure, technical layout, or their hand speed. As a control sorcerer, Luo used her abilities to prove that she hadn't slowed down. Everyone had problems to overcome. Uncle Ian was thinking about how to overcome his current self. He had reached a bottleneck before. Chin Mo brought over the past information and the tactical analysis of the various teams in the world. At that time, they would be considered to have entered a battle state. They understood one point clearly. Next, they were going to bring esports out of the country. Every country had sent their strongest team to face the challenge. What they could do was to train well and be more prepared. As for other things, they were a team that grew stronger the stronger they were. On the battlefield, they wouldn't just be at their current standard. Except for China. Some of the Japanese team members would also represent their countries. How could Yu Cixin and Hoshino not be among them? Only during this period of time. No one knew what was going on. There seemed to be a barrier between the captain and the vice-captain. The captain rarely spoke. Apart from playing games, he didn't say a single word. The vice-captain was the same as before, sleeping more than awake. But the captain's condition was still not right. Even though the captain had a very beautiful face, the sharpness that seeped out from her bones made many people want to persuade her, but they didn't know how. Moreover, the Japanese didn't want their captain to lead the team. If it wasn't for the vice-captain defeating them all by himself, they would definitely be unconvinced. But even so, the captain still looked cold. It seemed like he had been in this state ever since Spadesy's wedding. That was strange. Captain should be happy that Spadesy was getting married. That way, no one would be fighting with Captain for the vice-captain position. Why did Captain seem to be distancing himself from him? Chapter 17-17. In Japan, gangsters were allowed to have legal activities. Yu Cixin was the 19th generation leader. His usual hobbies, other than gaming, were racing and drinking. Moreover, almost everyone here knew about it. It was best not to offend Yu Cixin. Because he was a snake, he could spit out a red tongue. Don't think that just because he had a pretty face, he was a pretty boy. Many people didn't even know how they died because of this. Now, there was someone who didn't know his place and wanted to take him away in the nightclub. You see, Sheen drank a little too much today. He wore local clothes, and with his long hair, it was hard to tell if he was a man or a woman. But after meeting his eyes, one should know that he didn't have any femininity. But even so, there were those who couldn't move when they saw a beauty. Do you want to leave with me? I still have a lot of alcohol with me. The person who said this was the beauty who was drunk and wanted to take the chance to take her away. Unexpectedly, before he could place his hand on that person's shoulder, there was a creaking sound. His wrist was forcefully broken by that person. When the pain came, there was only a scream left. You see, Sheen laughed coldly and pushed him away. He looked down at him and spat out one word. Scram. That person's expression changed in fear. You see, Sheen reached out and pushed his black hair to the back of his head. He glanced to the side. The bartender immediately brought a new bottle of alcohol over. He was afraid that something would happen to the master here. Why didn't his brothers come over? They must have received orders to stand around. What about young Master Hoshino? Why didn't he come? As long as young Master Hoshino came, then there would be true peace. If not, who knew how many people would have their hands broken tonight? Tell me, what's wrong with me? You see, Sheen suddenly spoke. He wasn't like an ordinary person who couldn't speak clearly after getting drunk. His face didn't look sloppy at all. It was still handsome and sharp. But as a follower, what's wrong with the master? This was a question that was asking for death. Not answering. You see, Sheen scoffed. After he stood up, he glanced at one of the beauties who was still dancing and raised his glass. What kind of place was this? A place to have fun. After the beauty saw this, she walked over. You see, Sheen lifted the other party's chin and seemed to smile. He could really win over both men and women. What do you think is wrong with me? He was too handsome. He was so handsome that it was hard to breathe. How could there be such a person? His hair was clearly longer than his own, but it was like a demon that bewitched all living beings. The beauty moved closer, wanting to kiss his lips. But you see, Sheen pushed him away. Then, he shook his finger. This won't do. Why? The beauty didn't think that a person like him would like a man. The uncle who came up to her just now was blind. Just by looking at this person's wolf-like eyes, it was clear that he would not bow down to anyone. He was the one who was fatally attractive to girls. Especially now, when he began to tug at his collar. Very hot. I can help you cool down. You must be thirsty after drinking so much. My car is just outside. You see, Sheen listened to her words and suddenly smiled, but before he could speak, you see, Sheen suddenly smiled. Someone was walking toward them. Chapter 17-18. It was Hoshino. He was wearing a white shirt and a sweater from late autumn. He was carrying a cat in his arms. From afar, he looked like a character that walked out of a manga. It was hard to ignore him. The bartender instantly revealed an expression as though he was saved. You see, Sheen's eyes paused for a moment. His thin lips were a little nonchalant. I haven't drunk enough, I won't go back for now. Hoshino threw the cat into his arms. He was as refined as ever. I didn't ask you to go back. You raised your own cat, aren't you going to feed it? It won't starve to death. You see, Sheen picked up the cat with one hand. He saw that the woman's gaze was focused on Hoshino's face. She suddenly smiled. Why? You don't want to bring me away now. You want to bring him to your car. The woman blushed as her thoughts were seen through. You see, Sheen couldn't be bothered to look at her anymore. He swept a glance in the direction of the bodyguard. Very quickly, someone came over to clear the place. They wouldn't do anything to her. That woman didn't need to come to this place anymore. Even if the music was noisy, it didn't seem to affect their temperament. Shin held the cat and looked at his eyes. Then, he scoffed. Your master doesn't have time to care about you now. If you don't want to starve to death, go find food yourself. He was in a bad mood and didn't even want to care about the cat. Yet, he reeked of alcohol. Young Master Hoshino. The bartender wanted to say something but stopped. Hoshino glanced down. Go get a room. Yes. The bartender thought that his boss was indeed suitable to sleep in this state. If not, if there were any more people who weren't afraid of death that came to his door, it would be terrible. Shin smiled. He didn't have any objections, but he wouldn't cooperate. He sat there and picked a bottle of strong alcohol. He poured it into a goblet with one hand. Hoshino finished the glass of wine right after he poured it out. Shin narrowed his eyes and poured another glass. Let's go. Hoshino's voice was very calm. I'm tired from looking for you. I'll be even more tired after a few more glasses. Shin glanced up and suddenly laughed. No wonder that woman wanted to take you away. It's a pity that she doesn't understand that our Mr. Hoshino doesn't care about anyone other than Z. Hoshino looked at him. His face smelled of wine and the corners of his eyes were red, but he was very cold. You're here because of this. Hoshino furrowed his brows but soon relaxed. His tone was calm as he stated a fact. Other than Z, isn't there also you? Shin was about to spit out his snake tongue when he suddenly stopped. He did not sober up. But it did not affect his thoughts. He knew very well that Hoshino treated him like family. This was what Shin couldn't understand. He was the first person to know him. If it wasn't for the fact that something had happened, he wouldn't have rushed to Hoshino's side immediately. How could Z have a chance? Even until now, Hoshino was still keeping his promise with the Bo family. He was doing it willingly. Even though Z said that she wanted to remove it, he would not give up either. This was what made Shin feel the most helpless. But it was different now. With Chin-mo by her side, Z had long cut off Hoshino's thoughts. Since that was the case, why should he be anxious? Shin lowered his lids and laughed. I thought you forgot what you said. No. Hoshino's temperament didn't change. Chapter 17-19. I never thought of going against the promise. Hoshino's emotions didn't change, even his voice was calm. Since you finished drinking, go to sleep. Shin smiled lazily, fatally handsome. My bed partner was seduced by you, how can I sleep? Don't you know? I'll feel cold if no one sleeps with me. I'll sleep with you. Hoshino bent down, picked up the cat on the ground and placed it back in his hands. His eyes were like splashing ink. Shin paused, turned his head and smiled. That's fine too. Even though he knew that the sleeping partner he was talking about was simply accompanying him. Shin didn't want to miss such contact. They hadn't slept in the same room for a long time. It wasn't considered in the base, there were so many people. When they were young, the two of them often slept in the same bed. Later on, this person became distant from him. Shin's gaze was calm, trying not to think about it. The room was in the deepest part of the bar. A high-class, large-scale bar like this. There would be VIP rooms for the night. But there were only 4 or 5 rooms. Usually, they were reserved for the most distinguished guests and gang members. The leader and young Master Hoshino were both there, so there were originally 2 rooms. After the bartender heard the conversation, he decisively asked someone to change to another room. After Yu Cixin was drunk, the fatal feeling on his body became more prominent. But he really drank a little too much. After opening the door, he walked into the bathroom. In a short while, the sound of vomiting came from inside. It was obvious that the drunk person wasn't feeling well. What was it this time? Was it because of those relatives who wanted to fight for power? It seemed like it was time for Su Qing to find out who Black Flame was. Hoshino stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, pressing the intercom. "Get someone to cook some hangover soup and porridge, send it over." "Yes, young Master Hoshino." This was the most peaceful day in recent times. Every time this happened, there would be people who wanted to spend the night with the boss. How many pale faces would leave? They couldn't remember. Fortunately, young Master Hoshino was here today. Boss seems to agree with young Master Hoshino, both of their auras are so strong. Of course, look at who they are. Boss listens to young Master Hoshino because they have known each other since young. You've known each other since childhood. Yes, I also heard it from the family. When they were young, Boss and young Master Hoshino were really inseparable. The two of them were different from other children. They would always lie under a tree and read books together. They would even fence and shoot together. At that time, were the two of them like this? It can be said that the leader has never changed, but young Master Hoshino disappeared for a period of time because something happened to his family. But when he came back, he didn't seem to be as close to the leader as before. Some people say that it's because they've grown up. That's right, Hoshino wouldn't be able to hear these discussions. All he heard was that the bathroom had been silent for a long time. He glanced sideways and glanced at the hangover soup and porridge that had been sent in. He waited for another 3 minutes, but there was still no sound. Only then did he stroll in. After opening the door, steam rose up from the hot water. Chapter 17:20. He was like a vampire aristocrat who was in deep sleep. Even that face seemed to be able to bring out the suffocating beauty of a rose. However, Yu Cixin knew that his current appearance wasn't attractive to that person at all. The moment this thought appeared, the footsteps stopped beside his ear. Hoshino raised his hand and pulled out a towel. He looked down at the person in the bathtub, looking a little like the most competent deacon in a manga. He placed the towel over Yu Cixin's head, his gaze faint. "What are you doing?" Yu Cixin opened his eyes, his gaze extremely sharp. "You didn't terminate the contract with Hoshino, you know what requirements I have for the people around me." Hoshino's voice wasn't loud or soft. "What requirements?" "You can only look at me." Yu Cixin stretched out his hand and pulled his collar, the smell of alcohol lingering. Hoshino glanced down at his hand, his aura didn't change. "Didn't I say earlier that I will abide by the words I said when I entered the main family? Since I became a death attendant, I will only look at you in the future. The main family's contract is really useful." Yu Cixin's smile deepened, but there wasn't any warmth in his eyes. Hoshino checked the water temperature. "It's getting cold, wipe it clean and come out." With that, he stood up. He could hear the splashing sound behind him. Yu Cixin did walk out of the bathtub with a towel around him, but the first thing he did was to hug Hoshino's waist from behind. Then, a low voice sounded. "You promised to sleep with me, don't go back on your words." Hoshino glanced down and felt the moisture behind him. He didn't take this action to heart. He just glanced over and said faintly, "Let go." Yu Cixin's extremely beautiful eyes narrowed at this moment, then he said slowly, "I won't let go." Hoshino's aura seemed to always be like this, he wouldn't allow anyone to continue messing around. Even Yu Cixin was the same. He removed the hand on his waist and walked out of the bathroom. Shin's gaze, which was about to follow the back view, sank. That person walked in again, a bathrobe hanging on his arm. Lower your head. Shin still reeked of alcohol. He did as he was told. Hoshino reached out and helped him put on the bathrobe. Looking at his unhappy face, he thought about it and said slowly, "I'll stay with you like I did when we were kids." "Isn't that enough?" Shin paused but didn't raise his head. "Like when we were young." Hoshino grunted in acknowledgement. His gentleness didn't change. He handed him a towel before walking back to the bed. Shin wanted to say, I want more than this." But he didn't say this out loud. In any case, they were going to sleep together later. Since there was a breakthrough, then there was no need to think too much. At most, he would use force. Thinking about this, Shin's lips curved upwards. That kind of smile indeed looked like a beautiful snake spitting out its red tongue. However, it was clear that his seductive, androgynous beauty, under his deliberate efforts, did not arouse that person's interest. Shin smiled. When he came out, he saw that the person was already lying on the bed. Shin simply walked over. First, he pressed down on Hoshino's wrist. Then, he bent down slightly. Under the bathrobe, porcelain white could be faintly seen. It was cold to the touch. Many people felt that he was a cold-blooded animal. It was probably because Shin's body temperature was slightly low. He lowered his body and his gaze met Hoshino's. Indeed, he had to use force. Chapter 17:21. Before Shin could do anything, he was pressed back by Hoshino's backhand. Shin narrowed his eyes and said slowly, "Aren't you going to abide by the agreement and be my shadow? Aren't you going to let me touch you? You're so drunk that you don't even want your hand." Hoshino leaned against Shin's ear when he said this. Shin glanced down. Indeed, because of the alcohol, his strength was weaker than usual. "Why? If I really make a move, will you really break my wrist?" "No." Hoshino looked at the handsome face that was inches away from him. His gaze was still the same as usual. This word made Shin bury his face into the pillow. "Then let go. It seems like you really underestimated your influence on me. If you speak into my ear like this, I'm going to have a reaction, heh." That have made Hoshino notice something. He wasn't joking, he was serious. His brows unconsciously furrowed, and he loosened his grip as he stood up. Shin, who was released, leaned there lazily. There was a sharp beauty in the corner of his eyes. "Why? Are you frightened?" Hoshino glanced at him. "When did it start? Don't you know that I don't discriminate between men and women?" As Shin spoke, he tilted his head and lit a cigarette in his hand. When he smoked, he was very handsome and had a kind of mischievousness. Hoshino retracted his gaze and took a step forward. Shin spoke again. "You want to break off your relationship with me? Or do you feel disgusted?" Hoshino turned back and looked at the person who laughed wantonly. He remembered that this fellow was like this when he was young. He would laugh no matter what he encountered, including when his mother tried to attract his father's attention. She often made him go to the main family with a swollen face. When he was young, he looked like a doll. He could make use of his surroundings, and no one could tell that he had cried before. It was said that children who were used as tools by their biological mothers didn't like to talk. But Shin was different. The smile on his lips would never disappear. Who bullied him? He would get revenge. He just needed to wait. Because of this. That was why he was here. Moreover, Shin didn't really like him when he was young. Hoshino could feel that although the man was smiling at him, there was no warmth in his eyes. But even so, the two of them were not the kind of people who would tear off their disguises. The innocence of a child seemed very far away from them. To some extent. No matter how unwilling they were at the time, they were still people who accompanied each other. In the first month, they will be like many sensible children. He would call him when he saw him. Hoshino, let's go practice fencing. It must be very interesting. Later on, the two of them confirmed that neither of them was pure. He didn't even greet him when he saw him. And he was even more so. On the 4th month. They were still together, but they had a childish fight. Because he saw his mother hitting him. Yusishin threatened him. If you tell anyone about this, none of us will have a good time. At that time, when he said this, the corners of his mouth were still curled up, just like now. But his hands were trembling, and his eyes seemed to be swirling. Chapter 1722. Forget it. Anyway, he already had his cat. It wasn't difficult to have one more. Hoshino reached out and took the cigarette from Yusishin's hand. He put it out in the ashtray. Let's talk. Yusishin paused, his gaze deepened. I don't want to talk. Anyway, you're rejecting me. When Hoshino heard this, his gaze paused. His aura didn't change. Who said that I'll definitely reject you? This sentence caught Yusishin off guard. He froze on the spot. Even his eyes were a little round. The more he looked at him, the more he looked like his cat. Hoshino reached out and pinched his chin. His gaze was still calm. Many women outside say that they'll feel happy when they kiss you. They probably haven't seen your expression before. After he mentioned it, Yusishin seemed to have realized something. He smirked evilly. Indeed, it will be very happy. Do you want to try? No need, I can't accept it now. Hoshino's words were true. He liked women. But in terms of feelings, Yusishin was more important. It was probably related to the environment he grew up in. Hoshino had always been indifferent towards women. Z was an exception. This person was an exception too. Hoshino could clearly see that person's eyes dimmed after he finished his sentence. He didn't know why. He just didn't want to see this person grow up to be like this. Lonely, like a person without a goal. He paused and added another sentence. When I can accept it, I'll try it with you. Hoshino, this sentence of yours sounds like what you said to Beitai. Yusishin smiled slowly. There was a hint of viciousness in his voice. I won't wait for you to accept it. I'll take action when I have the chance. If not, I won't like you anymore. Why must I like you? Yes, why must he like this person? How many people were waiting to climb into his bed? Women, men. She was handsome and beautiful. They were all queuing up to be taken by him, yet, he took a liking to someone he would never be able to get. Hoshino looked up. His aura was pure. You can take action. The unexpected answer made Yusishin glance over. You won't give me a chance to attack. Hoshino looked at the back of his slightly red ears and knew that he had realized what he had said. He lowered his voice and said, if that's the case, do you think I would be here? Yusishin laughed again and pulled him over. Then you have to explain it properly. Why can't you accept it now? Are you worried that my skills aren't good? Don't worry, I will make it very comfortable for you. After all, you have no experience. Hoshino looked at him, his eyes deep. Who gave you the illusion that I'm the one down there? Yusishin chuckled. Are you like those people? Do you think that because I have such a face? Before he could finish, Hoshino's voice rang out again. Play-Doh, if you really want. Play-Doh. Yusishi narrowed his eyes, his vibe as venomous as a snake's. I reacted when you talked to me like that just now. You want me to be Play-Doh? Hoshino was emotionless. You reacted just by talking to me like that. If not, how do you think I noticed? Yusishi suddenly paused when he said this. Chapter 17:23. The only thing Yusishi could feel was the slight coldness coming from his fingertips. When it touched his waist, he felt a numbness that caught him off guard. Even his eyes stopped moving. Hoshino looked into his eyes and said slowly, "What about this?" Yusishi didn't move because his body reacted faster than his brain. He seemed to be immersed in it. Hoshino's hand stopped on the second bone on the person's back. He moved closer. In the past, I didn't realize why those people wanted to bring you away. It's hard not to think about it when you're like this. But do you really think you can suppress me? Yusishi narrowed his eyes and held onto his wrist. Do you have a misunderstanding about my stamina? I can't suppress you. I feel that it's easy for you to go berserk in this state. Hoshino wasn't flustered. If I kiss you now, your stamina will probably decrease to 0. Kiss. When he heard this word, Yusishi froze. His heart was beating so fast that it felt like it was about to explode. There was no rhythm to it. Only he could hear the sound. Even if Yusishi was a beautiful venomous snake, he was still in a harmless state. He even seemed to be waiting to be slaughtered. Hoshino's hand changed direction and came to the back of his neck. He pressed his forehead against his and breathed slowly. You like me so much. You're like this just because I said it. Yusishi narrowed his eyes and smiled. He said lazily, who am I not like this to? You know that you slept with too many people. Hoshino's gaze was indifferent. So, how do you make me believe that your liking isn't a momentary impulse? What? Yusishi felt that he had never been so close to him before. In this way, she could even feel his thin lips very close to her. At this moment, Yusishi didn't know what Hoshino was talking about. He sensed that the person was about to pull his hand away. He lifted the corners of his eyes and pressed his hand down. Why are you talking so much? Help me. Help you with what? Hoshino wasn't in a hurry. He looked at that handsome face and felt a different kind of fragility. Yusishi lowered his voice. What do you want to help me with? I'm so obvious. Even if you don't have experience, you should know. Hoshino's leg came into contact with the scalding heat, but his gaze remained unchanged. Answer my previous question first. Of course, he understood. There is no such thing as a free lunch. Therefore, after he said this sentence, Hoshino leaned sideways, his thin lips landing on the tip of the man's ear. Yusishi, who was already intoxicated, felt the blood in his body heating up. Not only did his hand stop, even his body was trembling. What did he just do? Kiss him. He didn't stay for too long. Even when he only felt a flash of numbness. He didn't plan to continue kissing her. Yusishi had never felt that he wanted someone to continue touching him so much. It was as if he was suffering from skin hunger. This made Yusishi's breathing a little chaotic. What's the problem with the previous one? His brain had stopped working. Because until now, he had never felt like this before. He was so greedy that he didn't know how to be satisfied. Chapter 17:24. Yusishi didn't know that his heart could beat so fast. It was like a storm that swept over. It was just a touch on the tip of his ear. How could there be such a strong feeling? Hoshino looked at the pair of eyes that were obviously a little unfocused. His gaze landed on the handsome face that was different from before. His black silk-like hair scattered beside his hand. Forget it. Hoshino chuckled. Yusishin didn't understand what he was laughing about. Moreover, they had already reached this step. Was he going to tell him to forget it? The pair of eyes that were immersed in it slowly narrowed. He was about to flare up. He heard that person whisper in his ear, "Compared to others, I don't like you on a whim." Yusishin's back stiffened. Hoshino had already stood up. What was this? Was he tricked? Yusishin's eyes were a little heavy. His heart felt as though it was frozen. He wanted to stand up too. But he was affected by Hoshino's next action. That person pressed down on his wrist and used his other hand to pick up the hangover water beside him. Where are you going? Drink this first. Is this the time to drink hangover water? Yusishin grabbed Hoshino's collar and pressed his body closer. Hoshino's voice was very calm. If you don't drink it, you will regret it the next day. I won't this time. Let me sleep. Yusishin's attitude was very lazy. Anything can be solved. Hoshino sat beside him. His aura didn't change at all. You can sleep after you finish drinking. Ha! Yusishin laughed softly. You kissed me first and now you're telling me to sleep like this. Hoshino lifted his eyelids. Or do you want to take a shower? You can. Anyway, the perfume on your body is too strong. It smells uncomfortable. Perfume? Are you kidding me? I never use incense. Yusishin suddenly paused. Are you jealous? Mmh? Yusishin paused. Hoshino's expression didn't change. I really don't want to dig you out from the bed of any woman or man the next day. Moreover, since we want to be together, your actions should be restrained. Then sleep with me. Yusishin's mischievousness came from his bones. After sleeping with you, I probably won't be interested in anyone else. Hoshino glanced at him. Are you thinking about these things all day long? Isn't it good to be honest? Yusishin chuckled. Or am I not good-looking enough? Hoshino looked at him. Yusishin's aura got closer to that person. He was very good at using his appearance to achieve things. The only time he didn't use it was against Hoshino. But today was different. He wanted this person so badly. Moreover, Yusishin believed that he wouldn't remain unmoved. You really don't want to try. That kind of bewitchment was very tempting. In addition, Yusishin's lips were almost touching Hoshino's. But at this moment, Hoshino reached out and pulled the blanket. He covered Yusishin's handsome face with it. Even his head was covered. What are you doing? Yusishin narrowed his eyes and pulled the blanket down. Hoshino's voice was indifferent. Sleep. We're already at this stage and you're asking me to sleep. Yusishin laid on the bed but he was still unhappy. Chapter 1725. Was the future long? Sometimes, Yusishin felt that the Chinese language had a charm. It was because a few simple words would make people feel that his future wasn't cold anymore. He wasn't going to wake up from a stranger's bed when he couldn't sleep. He seemed to have been like this since he was young. He could always find a sense of stability in this person. And this was the first time Hoshino looked at him with such a gaze. It was like the water in the mountain stream and as tough as a rock. There was a little snow in it but it didn't feel cold at all. Instead, it made his fingers stiffen. Although he was drunk and his stamina couldn't keep up. But Yusishin's aura didn't fade. He was so evil that he wouldn't yield to anyone. This was also why some people wanted to challenge him when they saw him. And the reason why some people backed down. Many people died in Yusishin's hands. Of course, those who didn't have eyes and thought that he was the best would end up in a terrible state. Hence, the title of Viper was known to everyone. No matter what the occasion was, as long as he sat there, it would become a phenomenon. He was like an extremely extravagant dark noble with a crown on his head. There were many beauties around him. But now, Yusishin's attack speed slowed down. The feeling of his rhythm being controlled by someone else. This was something he had never experienced before. Yusishin squinted his eyes and wanted to stir up the atmosphere again. That person suddenly stretched out his hand and hugged him and the blanket. His voice rang beside his ear. Sleep, if you don't sleep, I won't be responsible for accompanying you to sleep. Yusishin froze. Even his slender legs didn't move. His life was messy. He was completely different from this person. Yusishin didn't understand why such a simple action wasn't intense at all. There was even a blanket between them. But it gave Yusishin a very different feeling. It even made him feel reluctant to let go, and he didn't want to destroy the current atmosphere. If he had to describe it, it was much more warm than sleeping with a stranger for a night. It was like the first time he ate cotton candy when he was young. Oh right, as a leader. His mother told him since young that cotton candy wasn't something he should eat. Unsurprisingly, after he was found to have eaten cotton candy, he was severely beaten up. But even so, the tip of his tongue had not forgotten the taste of cotton candy. The faint sweetness lingered for a long time. Yusishin didn't move. He just looked at the ceiling and replied, MMH. Hoshino looked at the face that had been too good to look at since he was young. He raised his eyebrows slightly. No resistance. Yusishin was really asleep, so he didn't care that he was the one being hugged. The next day, when Hoshino received Bojio's invitation, he didn't reply. Instead, he called her. Is it convenient for you to bring your family along? Family. Bojio paused, her lips lifting. It seems like you have thought it through. All right, bring them over. Hoshino chuckled. You know who it is. Who else could it be other than that poisonous snake? Bojio lifted her long legs. After frog jumping, she was resting. Since you can't let go of him, you would have gone to do other things. You wouldn't have stayed there as a consultant. Nowadays, gangs are becoming more and more sophisticated, and there are even positions like consultants. But, Hoshino, can he be stable? Hoshino glanced at the sleeping man on the bed. I will think of a way to stabilize him. Chapter 1726. From what she knew. Yusishin would get up from other people's beds every day. But he would never have sex with those people. It was probably because of his childhood trauma. Similarly, his popularity would never last long. Hoshino was probably the only one who could stop him. Venomous snakes had always been cunning. They would hide in the bushes and try to swallow a person. He didn't know that the hunter had already set up a trap. He was just waiting for him to make the first move. Then, he would pull back and bring the venomous snake home. I wonder if it's cold to hug a snake. Bojio hung up the phone and smiled. There wasn't anyone supervising them today, so Bojio wasn't very interested. She muttered to herself. She heard a voice beside her ear. Aren't you going to train properly? Wait a moment, I'll buy a box of heat pads for Hoshino first. I'll give it to him when we go to Milan. Bojio leaned against the railing behind her. She didn't even look up as she tapped on the shopping page. Her other hand was casually placed at the side. The ends of her hair were still slightly wet. The youngster looked clean and evil. Manager Phone wanted to remind her that a certain someone was back. Who would have thought? It would lead to Hoshino's name. As expected, Chin Mo, who was standing beside him, replied, "Oh." His gaze was still calm. "Do you need to buy an electric blanket for him too?" "An electric blanket is good, it can conduct heat." Bo Jio paused. She kept her phone naturally and looked at the handsome and noble face in front of her. Then, her hands moved. She hugged his waist and took advantage of him. "I didn't see you today. I didn't have any motivation when I was punished." Chin Mo raised the corner of his eyes. "Madam Chin, where's your face?" "I ran away from home temporarily." Bo Jio looked up lazily. Chin Mo signaled to her that there were people around. Bo Jio noticed them. Since her obedient disciple wasn't among them, she glanced over. Her evil smile was obvious. It was basically saying, "Don't you think you're a little extra?" Xiao Sanpang couldn't tolerate it. He had seen many people showing off their love, but he had never experienced such a strange one. Of course, she couldn't be a third wheel. She wouldn't be able to eat dinner if she did that. Bo Jio watched them with a smile. When they were gone, she lifted her head and kissed the lips that were inches away from her. There was a faint smell of tobacco. Chin Mo didn't allow her to be insatiable. Even though there was a smile in his eyes, he had to clarify his principles. "Why did you buy Hoshino thermal pads?" "You see, Shin's body temperature is slightly cold." Bo Jio wasn't pleased that her kiss had been interrupted. She arched a brow. Buying such things might improve their relationship. Chin Mo asked casually, "Their relationship?" "MMH, don't ask about that." "Don't hang out with them in the future," Bo Jio replied casually. "You're too pure, it's easy for you to turn gay." Chin Mo lowered his lids. "Easily gay. This thing has always been affected." Bo Jio smiled faintly. "I respect everyone's sexual orientation, but I hate the idea that the same sex is the only true love. Besides, Hoshino and young Master Xian are both bewitching. Brother Mo, don't ever think about it." Chin Mo swept her a glance. His voice was calm. "Give me your phone." Bo Jio arched a brow. "Brother Mo, don't you think you're behaving like a girl? Why are you looking at your phone?" "Give it to me," Chin Mo repeated. Bo Jio handed it over. Chin Mo's Adam's apple bobbed. He lowered his gaze and pressed against her forehead. "Don't move." His clear voice was low and raspy as it entered her ears. A wave of numbness overflowed from his heart. Bo Jio glanced up and saw his elegant and handsome face. Due to the influence of some things, his breathing was no longer as steady as usual. Even the corners of his eyes were a little different. He held her waist and brought her neck to his lips. Abstinence and excitement mixed together. Bo Jio knew that only she could make him like this. Chapter 1728. She couldn't help but want to be close to him. However, he placed his head on her shoulder as though he was avoiding her on purpose. He was extremely reserved. Then, he pushed her away, his gaze still unstable. "Let's go." That was it. Bo Jio arched a brow, slightly unhappy. She lowered her head and looked at her fingertips. She felt that it was time to use the drugs she dug out from the Black Brothers on a certain almighty. After all, they were going to Milan the day after tomorrow. Because they were going to face the National League. Hence, the training standards had to be high. Other than ensuring sufficient training, they had to rest well. They definitely didn't have time for a relationship. It wasn't easy for them to have a break today. No wonder Bo Jio had some thoughts. Anyway, they were going home. Bo Jio lifted her thin lips. Once they were home, there would be a chance for her to make a move. Chi Nemo walked in front, the feeling around his waist still lingering. His deep gaze deepened and the corners of his lips lifted slightly. In the hall. It wasn't easy for there to be no keyboard sounds today. Zhao Sanpang felt that scheming Qin was very flirtatious today. What's wrong with your shirt? Didn't he usually dress neatly? He even said that if he couldn't even dress properly, he shouldn't come out. He had to pay attention to his image. They were a Chinese team now and they represented the country. Hence, even he didn't wear flip-flops anymore and dressed according to the rules. What was wrong with this fellow now? Today is a break. Qin Mo's voice was calm. Zhao Sanpang smirked. What has that got to do with your messy clothes? A break is considered private time. Qin Mo glanced at him. My shirt is wrinkled because Joe lifted it. Zhao Sanpang froze. F***ck. He was feeding him dog food again. Then why didn't you tidy it up? Qin Mo said slowly, you don't have a girlfriend so you probably don't understand. It feels good when your girlfriend lifts your shirt. That's why you purposely didn't tidy it up. Have you ever seen a couple in love like the two of you? The girl lifted the guy's shirt. Little Mo Bei was standing beside Zhao Sanpang, carrying her school bag. There wasn't any expression on her fair face. Almighty Fatty is always dealt a blow. Why do you still want to be abused by my master's wife? Zhao Sanpang thought. That's really hurtful. She caressed Mo Bei's head with her right hand. Don't say that, your master Fatty is an esports player with the most girlfriend fans. I have to pay attention to my image. Girlfriend fan. Little Mo Bei furrowed her brows slightly. The world is so strange. I thought everyone only looks at looks. Zhao Sanpang was about to vomit blood. Am I not handsome? Do you want to hear the truth? Little Mo Bei asked seriously. Zhao Sanpang paused. How was he supposed to answer this rhetorical question? On the other hand, Luo laughed as she watched from the side. His gaze landed on the small figure before turning towards Bojo. It's a pity. MH? Bojo raised a brow. When Luo smiled, her long hair hung down. She was indeed beautiful. It would be a pity for Bei if the Supreme Alliance disbanded. A little. Bojo chuckled. But she will come back one day. Luo glanced sideways. Are you so sure? Does she not want to fight anymore? Chapter 1729. Luo paused for a moment. You are thinking so far ahead. The competition isn't about one person. Bojo glanced up. You have been through that path. You should know that it doesn't feel good to be ostracized by your peers. Luo looked at the person in front of her. Bojo raised her eyebrows. What is it? Nothing. Luo reached out. You are too handsome. I want to pinch you. Bojo stuffed one hand into her pocket. Feel free to pinch me. Luo did pinch her. Why did this person know so much? Usually, she wouldn't even say a word. This was probably gentleness. Luo turned her gaze back to the small figure not far away. That child's black hair was a little longer. It hit his eyelids and he was secretly mocking Master Fatty. Occasionally, he would free his hands to help them wipe the keyboard and carry water to drink. He never said he was tired. The bitter gourd juice they drank was made by Little Bei. Basically, during holidays, Bojo would let Little Bei stay in the base. Other than the people in the team, no one else knew. That was because Bojo paid for Bei's meals. It was the same for the plane tickets to Milan. Actually, every team in every country would have a reserve of newbies. They would bring them over to experience it during this international competition. Although the Supreme Alliance had disbanded. But Bo Jiu was his master. Her protective nature wouldn't change. How could her disciple not have what other people had? Also, during this period of time, everyone knew that Bo Jiu had been training Bei in other positions. Other than being an assassin, she was playing in all aspects. You are looking forward to Bei's return, right? Luo Luo laughed softly. She pinched that handsome face again. If not, there is no need to groom her like this. Bo Jiu leaned against the wall lazily without saying a word. Before she could say anything, she was pulled over. It was Qin Mo. Luoluo's hand landed on empty air. Qin Mo pressed the person in his arms. His eyelids were half raised. He looked nonchalant, but when his gaze landed on Luoluo, it was slightly cold. If you want to pinch a face, look for your Captain Xiao. Luoluo glanced sideways and looked at the other person who walked over. Captain Zhao's face wasn't something that people wanted to pinch. Qin Mo had already brought her away. Luoluo wanted to complain to Xiao Jing. Qin Mo is so petty, I can't even pinch little Spade's face. Unexpectedly, Xiao Jing glanced at her and said slowly, do you think you're too close to Z? Luoluo was stunned. Could it be that even he, Xiao Jing, was wearing a white coat and had an otherworldly aura? If you want to pinch my face in the future, pinch me. Luoluo, after leaving the base and getting into the car, Qin Mo behaved differently. After holding someone's chin for a long time, his fingertips gently rubbed the place where Luoluo had pinched. In the end, he frowned slightly. What happened between you and Luoluo? Bo Jiu chuckled. Don't you know that she's my goddess? Honestly, Brother Mo, if I was a guy, you guys wouldn't be involved. Ha! Qin Mo chuckled. He suddenly leaned forward and bit her ear. Do you still want to be a man? Bo Jiu froze. She seemed to have gone overboard. Chapter 1730. When Bo Jiu heard that voice, she wanted to hug him. But recently, a certain someone liked to play hard to get with her too much. For example, now. After saying that, he sat up straight and even tidied his sleeves. He looked as though he didn't want her to get close to him. But he was abstinent and noble. Bo Jiu's heart itched. The corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. No matter what, she had to sleep with him today. The place they were staying in was Qin Mo's loft apartment. There was no need to get 2 more rooms. Husband and wife should maintain a relative sense of distance. It wasn't suitable to put this matter on Qin Mo. When he was young, he was used to raising a certain little Bo Jiu. It was even more so now. This kind of idiot who liked to flirt was the most suitable to be kept by his side. At this moment, Bo Jiu was deep in thought about how to use the drug on Qin Mo naturally. Even when Princess came to provoke her, she didn't care. Princess's big face was a little confused. He stretched out his claws to provoke her again. Bo Jiu broke into a smile and took out 2 wine glasses. Then she picked up a bottle of red wine. The entire process was always done with a handsome look. Although Bo Jiu's cooking skills weren't good. But she, who had infiltrated all the big nightclubs, was a professional at drinking. Of course, Qin Mo saw her actions. His gaze was a little indifferent, but his eyes deepened. He didn't show anything. Instead, he turned his head and continued to deal with his steak. Bo Jiu naturally reached out and hugged Qin Mo from behind. I can help you cut the vegetables. Forget it. Qin Mo glanced sideways. Help me get the onions from the fridge. Bo Jiu had something to do. She diverted her attention slightly. Her intentions couldn't be too obvious. When the two of them were in the kitchen. Basically, it was like this. Chin Mo cooked. Bo Jio would help him by the side. Until a long time later. A little boy asked, "Mommy, you don't know how to cook. Why are you always in the kitchen?" This is called excessive waste of public resources. Bo Jio's voice was evil. What do you mean excessive waste of public resources? That's because you haven't learned the term feast for the eyes. I'm standing here, of course, to admire your daddy's beauty. Hence, the little boy flipped through the dictionary that day. He felt that his mommy had some misunderstanding about the term feast for the eyes. It was terrifying to use this word to describe his father. Of course, this was a story for another time. The little man hadn't come out yet. There is only one cat here. It wouldn't affect Bo Jio's naughty mood. Once the steak was in the pot and the aroma of the steak sizzled, she took the opportunity to pass one of the wine glasses to Chin Mo. It was the same when they were on Fifth Avenue. Before eating the steak, he would drink a little wine. Cooking in such a leisurely evening would make people feel more relaxed. That was why she handed him the wine. Of course, Chin Mo wouldn't reject her. He gently swirled the wine glass, smiled, and took a sip. The corners of Bo Jio's lips lifted when she saw him drinking. Sure enough, if he wanted to trick him, he would have to do it in his daily life. Watch the fire, I'll go get the broccoli. Bo Jio didn't care about where he was going and replied, all right. They only needed to wait for half an hour. After half an hour, the drug would take effect, and he would gradually lose the strength to resist. At that time, she could do whatever she wanted. Chapter 1731. On the second floor, Chin Mo stood by the bed, looking at the pill in his palm. His eyebrows twitched as he placed it in his mouth, his lips curving into a smile. Bo Jio couldn't see this. As a kitchen killer, she wouldn't let her guard down when it came to watching the fire. After Chin Mo came back, she asked, "Is it burnt?" "No." When Chin Mo was cooking the steak, his posture was very standard. The marinating process was also very handsome. The steak was very fragrant after it came out. Even though she had other plans, it didn't affect her desire to eat steak. Since she was a carnivore, the moment the steak came out, Chin Mo cut a piece and fed it to her. Bo Jio had always been a fast eater. Previously, under Chin Mo's control, he could eat slowly with the foundation of admiring the beauty. Today, he would occasionally raise his eyes to look at the time, and his movements were much faster. Chin Mo held the knife and fork the same as before. His posture was so perfect that it could be used for a poster. He even wore a pair of glasses on the bridge of his nose. He didn't wear glasses very often, unless it was to match his clothes. When they were about halfway through the meal, he put down the knife and fork and pinched the space between his eyebrows. Bo Jio had been supporting her chin lazily with one hand. When she saw his actions, her eyes lit up uncontrollably. "Why? Are you not feeling well?" "No." Chin Mo glanced at her. "I'm just a little tired." "That's right." Bo Jio smiled. "Do you want to take a break after eating?" Chin Mo lowered his lids. Was this guy that happy to see him fall for the trick? Bo Jio glanced at the clock, calculating that the medicine was indeed starting to take effect. When it was almost 7:20 p.m., she tapped her fingers on the table. Chin Mo reached out and unbuttoned his shirt. "Hot." Bo Jio arched a brow. Chin Mo replied, his slender fingers undid another one. This time, he was slow. When his fair collarbone was revealed, there was an indescribable sense of abstinence. Bojo was elated, but she didn't show it on her face, maintaining her lazy expression. I'll go adjust the temperature. No need. Chin-mo seemed to want to stand up, but the moment he stood up, he swayed and sat back on the chair. Then he frowned deeply, as though he couldn't understand why he was like this. Bojo leaned slightly, a little worried. Are you feeling unwell? No. Chin-mo's voice didn't change. I just can't use my arms and legs. Is there something wrong with the wine you poured? Bojo knew it wouldn't be easy to trick the Almighty. Since the drug was out, she decided to admit it. I drugged you. Chin-mo looked at the smiling face in front of him. He didn't see any hint of guilt. Instead, he looked very playful. And after seeing that he was out of strength, that person lifted his chin, lowered his eyes, and kissed him. The corner of his mouth was still curled up. Brother Mo, how about I help you to the bed? Grandfather Butler told you to be more reserved since you were young. Have you forgotten, Mrs. Chin? Chin-mo asked casually. Bojo sat on the dining table and leaned down to kiss his fingers. She was a handsome gentleman, just like a prince. I'm very reserved, I didn't force you. Chin-mo looked at her. When she bent down, he could clearly see the back of her neck, which was as white as snow. Chapter 1732. Chin-mo did the same. Just as Bojo was celebrating her success, Chin-mo glanced sideways and kissed the back of her neck. Bojo shuddered. She lost the strength in her hands that were peeling off his shirt. This wasn't right. Just as she was about to lift her head, Chin-mo grabbed her right hand. In the blink of an eye, their fingers interlocked. He had already stood up and pushed her against the dining table. His deep and magnetic voice traveled over. Are you happy? Bojo was smart. Of course, as she realized something. She glanced sideways at his wine glass. Chin-mo's breath landed on the back of her ears. The drug will take effect in half an hour. The symptoms are fever and weakness. You can do whatever you want. Doesn't that sound familiar? Bojo didn't want to lose. She smiled faintly. Black brothers are really unreliable. When did Brother Mo find out? Chin-mo's fingers had already reached into her shirt. He smiled. What do you think? He had found out from the start. Really? Bojo felt a little regretful. Chin-mo watched her depressed expression. He moved closer. I've been waiting for you to use this drug. Bojo thought about walking into a trap. Did you drink the antidote beforehand? So smart. Chin-mo arched a brow. His mind wasn't on this anymore. His fingertips touched her softness. His breath started to waver. The corners of Bojo's beautiful eyes turned red. She couldn't ignore the numbness that rose up. She looked at the person standing in front of her. She didn't even need to talk about doing whatever she wanted, she was basically being controlled by the other party. Chin-mo noticed her trembling. His gaze deepened. He bent down and untied her collar. Then, he kissed her lightly. He didn't give her a chance to escape. He stood in front of her, blocking her escape route. Needless to say, he held her right hand the entire time. Bojo's entire body was burning. The numbness spread from her fingertips and spread everywhere. The temperature in the room continued to rise. Bojo heard his voice beside her ear. There was a hint of laughter in his voice. Do you want me very much? To Bojo, Chin-mo was like a demon who had been cultivating for many years. It was even worse now. Bojo's shirt was pulled up, revealing her waist. The curve was beautiful and seductive, carrying the innocence of a youngster. She smiled like a demoness. Why else would I drug you? Chin Mo's gaze deepened as he placed his left hand on her waist. His fingertips seemed to be electrified. That sounds logical. Bojio's waist softened and even her breathing became hot. They had been together for so long. He knew her body better than she did. It was as if the pair of hands were enchanted. There was numbness everywhere. Bojio's thoughts seemed to be floating in midair. They could only let him take the lead. He wouldn't give her a chance to think it through. His thin lips landed on her shoulder. Chapter 1733. She floated up and down. The heat by her ear became more obvious. She was pushed onto the table by him. Even her fingertips had no strength left. Until her voice broke. When it was about time, he held her waist with one hand. His voice was low and magnetic. Is it comfortable? Mmh. Bojio trembled. Her thoughts were empty. The numbness in her fingertips hadn't faded. She realized that he seemed to have recovered. She was about to open her eyes. He lowered his lids and kissed her neck. The temperature in the room rose again. He could clearly hear the ambiguous squeaking sounds. Every sound seemed to be filled with sweetness. As for Bojio, when she was enduring it, she would stretch her neck. It was so beautiful. Indeed. She was only wearing a white shirt. To Chin Mo, it was no different from pure medicine. Moreover, she was wearing his shirt. Hence, even though he was very patient, he didn't wait until they went upstairs. And he liked this feeling. It felt as though he was her only support. It made Chin Mo unable to stop. Bojio's entire body was soft. She didn't know how many times he had coaxed her. The night was still long. The next day, Bojio woke up in the car. In the long Lincoln, he let her sleep in his arms. She didn't need to think to know that he was the one who helped her wear the clothes. When Bojio looked up, she saw that handsome and abstinent face. The curve of his chin was very clear. It wasn't as desolate as yesterday. It was still very seductive. Facing such a face, Bojio endured the pain in her waist. She decided to take advantage of him when there was a chance. Her hand slipped into his shirt. Chin Mo glanced down. Doing bad things the moment you wake up. That's really your style. If Brother Mo could cooperate with me and not move, it would be better, Bojio said wickedly. Chin Mo lifted his lips. He leaned towards her ear and said in a voice that could only be heard by the two of them, "Who was the one who asked me to move faster and harder yesterday?" Mmh. Bojio didn't say anything. Her face was flushed. Chin Mo lowered his voice. Don't worry. When we reach the place, I'll let you touch all you want. When they reached the place, Bojio found out. The place he was talking about was a hot spring resort. There were only the two of them on the topmost floor. He seemed to like her wearing his clothes and let her go into the water wearing the white shirt. It was hot all around. There was also a thin layer of mist, like the water vapor of a mountain stream. It inexplicably gave off a feeling of a fairyland. No one would see them. Chin Mo wouldn't allow anyone to come over. Moreover, he fulfilled his promise. He held her hand and led her to his waist. Leaning against the edge of the hot spring pool, he smiled and said, "Mrs. Chin, please go ahead." Bojio wanted to take advantage of him, but if she continued, she would be the one with a sore back. Why? Chin Mo pulled her back. Are you going to abandon me? Bojio replied lazily, I want to, but it's too tiring. You have to promise me that you won't do it. Sure. Chin Mo chuckled. As long as you don't want it, I won't touch it. The facts proved that it would be better to have a good time. Because he really didn't do anything out of line. Sometimes, Chin Mo was mindful of his promise. However, the kisses that landed on her body came one after another. She had no way to resist at all. Chapter 1734. In the end, she didn't know who had taken advantage of who. Bojiu had touched enough of Chin Mo. But she was the one who had been eaten. It was just that she couldn't forget anything. After that, she could hear him panting beside her ear. His handsome face was different from usual. His lips were red, and his eyes were deep and beautiful. Bojiu never got tired of looking at him. Chin Mo always knew how to take care of someone. He fished her out of the water. He took a sleeping robe and wrapped her up. She sat in front of the floor-to-ceiling window and looked at the lights outside. Actually, it wasn't that intense. Compared to the first day. Today, Chin Mo had restrained himself. Hence, Bojiu only felt comfortable. It was even more comfortable to lean against him. After hearing his words, she moved. She didn't understand. What are you doing with your hand? I'm not touching you anymore. Chin Mo raised his eyebrows. I'm not asking you to touch me. Keep your perverted thoughts to yourself. Bojiu yawned lazily and leaned against him shamelessly. She pressed her thin lips against his neck. Brother Mo, you don't understand. To create a beautiful marriage, one of us has to take the initiative. You're so reserved. How can I not take the initiative? I'll tolerate you. Thank you, Lord Zhou, Chin Mo said casually. He pulled her hand over. Bojiu knew he was going to cut her nails. She started to pull her hand back. Leave your nails for you to chew. Chin Mo moved closer. His breath landed beside her ear. My back is red from your scratches. When Bojiu heard this, her face heated up. She just looked at him. Chin Mo's body was already very good. It was covered with thin layers of muscles. His back was straight and flawless. Now, the scratches were extremely ambiguous. Shouldn't soldiers have thick skin and muscles? As expected, even when Momo grew up, he was still a little princess. I'll be gentler in the future. Bojiu was serious. She never realized that this was usually said by boys. Chin Mo glanced down at her and took her hand. Chin Mo would never have the patience to serve others. But ever since he had regained his memory, serving Bojiu had become easier. It was a habit he had cultivated since he was young, and he couldn't change it even if he wanted to. Moreover, he had never thought of changing. He should have been the one to raise it. Even during training, Zhao Sanpang had said it countless times. For example, after the frog jump. Zhao Sanpang would always say, scheming Chin, does little spade have hands? You even have to help her tie her shoelaces. Every time, Chin Mo would mock and suppress him. You're single, so you won't understand. Zhao Sanpang had tried persuading Bojiu with all his heart. Little spade, really, a good-looking person is the same but an interesting soul is one in a million. Scheming Chin's face is only worth looking at, everything else is boring. Everyone else would definitely go out to play during the holidays, but what is he doing? He stays at home drinking tea, playing chess and reading books, entering his old age early. Little spade, how can you tolerate it? You're the little prince of the nightclub. Almighty fatty, it's embarrassing but I like good-looking people, Bojiu said seriously. The lighting in the nightclub isn't good, the face can't be seen clearly but it's different at home. He reads books and I look at him. MMH. Perfect. Chapter 1735. Other people probably didn't know. Chin Mo was very good at taking care of people. But other people were still other people. There were very few people like Bo Jiu who were willing to be controlled by him. Chin Mo wasn't without flaws. He was very possessive. He even blacklisted Luo Luo from her phone. Anyway, everyone would complain about this behavior. Bo Jiu always had one sentence. It's a small matter. I'll add it back secretly. Then, she would smile mischievously. Everyone in the world was like this. No one was perfect. For example, Bo Jiu was like the wind. At this moment, she could lie lazily in your arms. In the next moment, she could drive a Lamborghini and do something. She had many friends, both of the opposite sex and the same sex. Most of the time, she would train and play. Indeed, she liked to eat, drink and play. And Chin Mo was the only person who could catch the wind. She couldn't change her love for the dark. He wouldn't let her change either. But she was clear about one thing. She was his. Up until now, Bo Jiu had a clear understanding of this point. When she met someone good-looking, she would just look. After all, she realized that no one could be compared to the person beside her. Bo Jiu thought about this and opened her eyes to enjoy the benefits of marriage. Chin Mo glanced sideways. He thought that he had cut the flesh under her nails. His posture moved and his brows were slightly furrowed. Princess watched from the side. The cat's face was really round. Although Master tried to bring him everywhere he went. But he didn't feel loved at all. Master was so casual when he cut his nails. And look at him now. He was so careful as if he was treating a porcelain doll. And this was his daily life. Sometimes, Princess almost suspected that this person did it on purpose. It was the same when she got off the bed. Master had to remind her to wear slippers. Bo Jiu had nothing to say about this. In terms of life skills, she hadn't improved much. Occasionally, when she wanted to enter the kitchen to make breakfast, that person had to stand behind her and teach her every step of the way. Hence, Bo Jiu didn't just know how to cook noodles. It wasn't a problem to make scrambled eggs with tomatoes. Chin Mo was probably like this. He might ask if she wanted to destroy the kitchen, but the next second, he would come over and teach her. Just like when they were young, he held her hand and taught her to write his name stroke by stroke. Are you stupid? Momo, I'm really not good at this kind of manual work. Since when is writing considered manual work? It counts for me. It's the most difficult kind. Sit properly. You're still writing. What else do you want to do? Play with William. Back then, she had been smart. She had hugged his face and kissed him. No, I just don't want to write. He originally thought that she would be able to conquer him, but when he thought about it, he realized that Momo was just too pure at that time. He took a deep breath and said, "Don't sleep at my place today." No, not only today, don't come tomorrow either. Why? Bo Jiu didn't understand. She had already expressed herself honestly. Chin Mo couldn't understand how someone could act shamelessly and take advantage of him at such a young age. How many times did he have to remind her that she was a girl? She laid limply on his shoulder. She admitted her mistake rather sincerely. I promise to control myself next time, but Momo is too beautiful. I'm not sure if I can control myself. Chapter 1736. From a certain point of view. Bo Jiu really hadn't changed since she was young. As for Chin Mo, he wasn't used to it when he was young. His etiquette told him that there was a difference between men and women and he had to maintain an appropriate distance. But later on, he realized that when she didn't look for him or hug him, he felt terrible. Terrible. He didn't want to keep a distance from her. Nan, there was only one solution. If he raised her, there wouldn't be any difference between men and women. That meant Chin Mo's scheming hadn't changed. Otherwise, William wouldn't have felt a chill down his spine when he saw him and his legs would go weak. It was a childhood nightmare. But these couldn't compare to his gentleness. Those who knew Chin Mo said. It was really hard to imagine that one day, he would patiently cut another person's nails and tidy up her cuffs. This was beyond their understanding. Even if they were dating, it shouldn't be like this. Only old Masterin had a smile on his lips and didn't say anything. At that time, he thought, that's because you haven't seen them when they were young. He would always tease his grandson. You are helping the Bo family raise the child. Now, it seemed like raising the child was raising the wife. Whenever the two of them ate, his grandson would personally feed them under his supervision. Even children would have a toothache. He didn't know how much effort his grandson had put in to get her to stop eating candy and let her bite on peppermint leaves. Old Masterin wanted to laugh whenever he thought about that time. Similarly, there would be the time when they separated. His best friend despite the difference in age. It was really a pity. Old Masterin seemed to sigh. At the business cocktail party, someone didn't understand. What is Chairman worried about? Is it about your grandson? I have a good one here. Forget it, yours is good. It's good to have a better one than mine. Old Masterin listened to these daily recommendations. In his heart, Old Masterin thought it was time to hold a wedding for the two children in China. In less than 3 days, the two children would represent China in the competition. The people in the business circle really didn't know how good his grandson was at gaming. Hence, they didn't know that his grandson held a wedding overseas. She really married into the Bo family. Old Masterin didn't expect his grandson to be successful. Since he was young, he wanted to raise the Bo family's child. He definitely didn't want to care about it anymore. But these people didn't know about his grandson's marriage. Grandpa smiled. After thinking about what to say, he was about to speak. An evil laugh rang out from the other side. It was low and pleasant to the ears. I say, everyone, it seems like you guys aren't very well informed. That smile was so familiar that Grandpa almost thought that there was something wrong with his hearing. He, who had always been a businessman, paused for a moment and slowly looked behind him. She saw a man leaning against the piano. This time, he was not wearing a windbreaker, but a pure black suit, tall and straight. It was as if time had not left any traces on his body. His face was still chiseled and handsome, giving off a lazy feeling. However, because his lips were too thin and his skin was too white, people would always associate him with the word demon. He had the temperament of a vampire nobleman. As he walked over, he attracted everyone's attention. Who is this? Someone asked. Chapter 1737. That person walked over. She wasn't sure if it was because he was too handsome. It was as though there were stars in his deep eyes. The Chin kid got married a long time ago, didn't he? Married? Some of the older people who were only businessmen were a little hesitant. The people at the side were still discussing. When he turned back, he wanted to ask Old Masterin if it was true. Old Masterin's eyes were shaking. Directorin, do you know this? Before the person beside him could finish his sentence. Old Masterin walked over, opened his arms and gave the person a hug. They were true friends despite the difference in age. Where have you been all these years? The person smiled, evil and lazy. Looking for someone. Old Masterin didn't understand. Looking for someone. Who? Who do you think it could be? The man curled his lips again. Old Master N's eyes shook even more. Isn't she? Yes. The person seemed to be talking about something very normal. But I didn't believe it, so I kept looking in that sea. Old Master N was shocked again. Then I found her. The person smiled, his eyes bright and teeth white. But I encountered a problem. Old Master N heaved a sigh of relief. That's good. After all, there's nothing you can't solve. I can't solve the problem of my daughter getting married. I heard that your grandson has married into the Bow family. The person's smile deepened. It seems like our young Master Joe's wish was fulfilled. When she was young, she saved money to buy your grandson. Now, she bought him. Old Master N smiled and shook his head. When he thought of the two children when they were young, it was indeed interesting. On the other hand, the people at the side were dumbfounded. Someone raised his glass and asked, Director N, who is this? After all, it was rare to see Director N speak to someone in such a tone, as though he was talking to a family member. But this person was a little too young. Old Master N didn't explain further, he just said calmly, he is a friend of mine. Then what he said, is it true? Everyone present was very concerned about this issue. Grandpa N smiled and said, it's true. But that grandson of mine, as you all know, is very opinionated. He likes her too much, so he held the wedding overseas. What's the rush? Without Director N's permission. He should at least go through the formalities at home first, right? Old Master N smiled and said, what formality? In the future, that little rascal will belong to someone else. A married grandson is like water that has been poured out. But don't worry, when these two are done with their business, they will definitely make up for it in Jiang City. Remember to come when that time comes. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. Is he really marrying into her family? God, what kind of family does she have? To be able to marry the only successor of the Qin and N clans. And everyone in the family agreed. Was there such a powerful family? If there was, how could they not know? At this thought, everyone once again turned their attention to the figure standing next to Grandpa N. Who was he? How could there be such an extravagant display at home? And this person's age didn't seem like someone who had many children. Of course, Old Master N wouldn't let these curious gazes size him up for long. Because he knew how good he was at hiding his identity and he knew that he didn't want to interact with others. Hence, Old Master N didn't say much. When there was no one around, he sighed and said, you really haven't aged at all. Chapter 1738. No one would notice that there was a slight redness in his eyes. He really looked like a demon from a comic. How could a demon grow old? He smiled again, as lazy as before. All right, I'll let you know that I'm still here. What do you mean? The intelligent Old Master N frowned. Are you not going to see Joe? Mr. Bow stood there as though he had merged with the darkness. I've already seen her. Our Lord Joe is indeed very beautiful in her wedding dress. You attended their wedding overseas. Old Master N suddenly lifted his head. They didn't recognize you. Mr. Bow corrected him. To be precise, I hosted their wedding. These two people have good taste. They chose the church that I slept in. The church that you slept in. Old Master N paused. He recalled the first time he met this person. He continued, I have a question that I always wanted to ask. What method did you use to heal the wound that I knocked into you? Mr. Bow laughed lightly. Olden, isn't it too late for you to ask this question now? Old Master N wanted to say something. Just then, he heard a cell phone ring. Mr. Bo pressed the answer button. His voice changed slightly. There was a hint of softness in his magnetism. Me? I think I'm lost. Yeah, I don't know where I am. Are you coming to pick me up? Alright, I'll wait for you here. Don't drive too fast. It's a little cold, right? You remember some things. Let me hear what you remember. Grandpa knew all too well what kind of situation his old friend would be in when he would act like a man living off a woman. It was clear at a glance who was calling. After Grandpa hung up the phone, he turned to look at him and said with a smile, I'll take her to watch their competition. Speaking of which, I've only recently had time to watch their competition. When they win, I'll give them something else. After leaving this sentence. Just like that, the slender figure disappeared into the boundless night. It was always so elegant that it was unbelievable. However, Old Master didn't stop him. After all, this sentence was enough. He also knew that this person would stand by the roadside and act pitiful after leaving this place. Hence, he didn't stop him. As expected. Mr. Bo was indeed very familiar with living off a woman. He strolled to the side of the road. Although his temperament was still evil, his suit jacket was unbuttoned, and he looked a little confused. He just stood there, glancing at the bats under the streetlight from the corner of his eyes. If there were other people around, they would definitely see that the bats seemed to tremble a few times before leaving. What's more, there shouldn't be bats so close to people in the city center. It wasn't the right season either. Everyone knew that bats like dark and damp places. Why would he be here? Everything in front of him didn't seem real. Following the bat's departure, the surrounding black mist also dissipated quite a bit. Mr. Bo stood under the streetlight. His shadow was very long. The night wind in autumn was a little strong. His black hair was a little messy, but even so, it did not affect his handsomeness. Instead, it made him look a little pitiful. In order to do this work, he had to bend his waist with his height. However, Luo didn't know why. This kind of thing made her happy easily. Even the problems he encountered in his business today were no longer so difficult to accept. Although it was a little bad for this person. However, Luo finally understood what those directors were thinking when they fell in love with young ladies. Who wouldn't like someone who was young, obedient, good-looking, and could rely on you? Chapter 1740. In the novel. These words were said by the male CEO to the female protagonist. It was weird. It wasn't weird for Luo to say it. It was probably because her aura made her look like a successful businessman. However, there was a trace of clarity in her eyes. Bo-in glanced sideways at her. His thin lips landed on her face. I don't want to go now. Luo didn't expect him to kiss her. Her hand on his head paused for a moment. As someone who lived off a woman, Bo-in knew when to stop. His kiss was a little ticklish. Luo thought about the Alaskan dog she had in the past. He liked to be intimate with her like this. Recently, she had been reading people's opinions on love between a younger man and a younger man. Very few endings were good. However, with their current situation, they probably couldn't even be considered a love between a younger man and a younger man. She was probably his sugar daddy. In the past, Luo didn't like people who were so lazy. Including in the company, she liked people who knew how to plan their work and earn their own living. However, this person was always an exception. Why was that? Luo kept searching for the reason. In the end, the only thing she could convince herself was that when this person was by her side, she didn't feel so lonely. When she reached home, someone would help her take off her high heels. Luo asked her female friends if their boyfriends would do such things. The answer she got was a light chuckle. Are you crazy? It's more like taking off your high heels and clothes. He's so obedient. He must be younger than you. He was indeed younger than her. She couldn't treat him like a younger brother. She didn't continue chatting with her female friends. After all, Luo didn't like to associate him with a pretty boy. She called him a boy because he had a youthful aura. He was soft and made people want to rely on him. However, he was a man. From the way he looked at her occasionally, Luo knew that his mischievousness was addictive. Was this the benefit of being young? Luo placed her hand on his head. She smiled faintly. Shall we get in the car? Yes. Bo Yin's voice was still lazy. After he got in the car, his voice became even deeper. You said that you remembered something. Luo placed the financial report back in its original position. Her voice was a little deep. I can't remember now. It's just that some images are too blurry. Bo Yin didn't speak. He reached out and removed the report from her long legs. You should have told it that this is my position. With that, he lay down diagonally, his head resting on her lap. Luo wasn't in a hurry to deal with the documents. After all, she was here to fetch him. Hence, she allowed him to rest on his pillow. She looked at his soft black hair and his handsome, flawless face. Luo reached out her hand and stroked his hair with her fingertips. Her aura hadn't changed. Her makeup was still very exquisite. She was beautiful and clear. When she wore the professional attire, she looked even more determined. Boss Lu, are we going west or somewhere else? The driver watched this scene from the rearview mirror. He really couldn't understand why Boss Lu would find such a boyfriend. Apart from that face, there was nothing about them that matched each other. But recently, for some reason, Boss Lu seemed to like going west more and more. Chapter 1741. Luo liked to go to the west because he was staying there now. When she picked him up, he was staying there too. However, it was obvious that this person was quieter than before today. Luo lowered her eyes. He seemed to be the same in the past. Suddenly, he was quieter. Are you unhappy because I didn't remember? Luo asked the person lying on her lap. That person suddenly laughed and held her hand. His voice was magnetic and pleasant to the ears. No, as long as you can remember to bring me home every day, it's enough. The people in the dramas want their other half to regain their memories. Luo looked at him. She didn't seem to believe that she knew him in the past. Bo Yin could tell. He smiled. That's fine. If you recover, I'll bring you to meet someone. If you don't recover, we'll start dating again. Luo smiled. His words always made her feel comfortable. Was this the reason why those people who were raising other people outside the office? Today's work report was supposed to be done in the office. However, when she remembered that he was going to attend a business gathering, she brought the report with her. All her female friends knew about his existence. Someone asked her what he did for a living. Luo was stumped by this question. After all, this person rarely went out during the day. He always came out at night. Does he work in a bar? Or is he a student? He doesn't need to wake up early. Someone guessed and told her that this kind of guy wouldn't really want to date someone like them. Luo knew that this had nothing to do with confidence. For someone as old as him, he liked sweet and beautiful girls who admired him. However, Luo's philosophy was simple. With him by her side, she felt very relaxed. She knew what the boundaries were. Now, it was a problem whether she should ask about his job or not. After all, when she saw other people raising other people, she would help them. This person would never ask for anything from her. The most he would do was call her and ask, "Can you come back earlier today?" This always made Luo feel that he really missed her. He was like a husband waiting for his wife. Luo didn't want to appear too materialistic, even though she was a materialistic person. But she should give something back to him. You. Luo paused for a moment. Are you working? Bo-in looked at her and replied, MMH. Luo didn't hide anything. What is it? Do you need my help? Voice C. Bo-in moved closer. The only thing you need to do is take good care of me. Don't always leave me alone at home. Reply to my messages as soon as possible and don't hang up on me during meetings. Luo's fingers froze when she heard this. Maybe another day. She would ask her female friends another day. Why was the one she raised different from the ones that the bosses raised outside? However, it made sense. This person was very smart and always knew how to make her happy. It was never materialized. He had always been different from her. Even if he really wanted something, his rank wouldn't be that low. The person she had picked up. To a certain extent, he understood them quite well. I asked too directly. Luo smiled softly and pinched his face. Her suit made her neck look very long. Will I hurt you? Chapter 1742. Shouldn't I compensate you? He finally mentioned compensation. Luo heaved a sigh of relief. After all, this was the only way she could continue to operate their relationship. He gave her warmth and accompanied her. She should compensate him accordingly. That was the right thing to do. Yes, you should. Luo placed her hand on his head again. She knew that she couldn't say some things too directly. In the past, she didn't have any worries. However, he was still a man. Luo was finding a balance. She didn't want to see him like this. They reached the place. The chauffeur left. The house on the west side wasn't very big. It looked a little ancient, but it was a standalone villa. Luo pushed the door open and entered. She wanted to have a good chat with him. However, he hugged her from behind. Then, he kissed her on the neck. His aura was cold. It felt as though there was no warmth at all. However, for some reason, her entire body felt numb. Perhaps it was because his teeth always brought a different feeling when they brushed past her veins. She couldn't resist at all. Be good. Yes, don't. Luo was still clear-headed. She reminded him not to overdo it. Bo-in tilted his face. His breath landed on her ear. You hurt me just now. Shouldn't you compensate me? Luo didn't expect him to ask for such compensation. She wanted to look up. His hand slid down the hem of her dress and reached inside. Her long legs trembled when they touched his cold skin. Luo trembled. She looked into his eyes. Bo-in lowered his gaze. He smiled faintly. Don't worry. You will like it. His voice was like hypnosis. It was low and mesmerizing. It was as though red wine had been poured into ice cubes. Luo didn't know how to describe it. In her memory, no one had done such a thing to her before. It had been such a long time. When he was beside her, he would kiss her face most of the time. Sometimes, he would act like he was relying on her. But today was different. Luo wasn't sure if she was prepared. From a certain perspective, she didn't want their relationship to develop like this. She knew that from a biological point of view. The body of a young man was really addictive. His influence over her was already there to begin with. If this continued, Luluo wasn't sure if she would let him go when he left. This compensation won't do. Luluo couldn't see his face. From this angle, she could only press his wrist. It's not convenient for me. Bo-in raised his eyebrows. Inconvenient? My relatives are here. Luluo found an excuse. She, who was wearing a professional suit, took a step away from him. She had been wearing high heels for a long time. The moment she entered the entrance, her first reaction was to change into a pair of slippers. Before she could bend down, someone was one step ahead of her, pressing down on her fair ankle and taking off her high heels. He landed on one knee, which made her subconsciously place a hand on his shoulder. It was probably because he was too handsome. Even such an action would not make people feel inferior. On the contrary, he was as evil as the devil deacons in the manga. His aura was not suppressed at all. Instead, it made people feel embarrassed every time. Even Luluo was the same. I will take it off myself in the future. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.